occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, patriots and preppers, I am Mack Worley III, and this is On the Move, the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. As I have said before, this is not my show, this is your show, this is your grassroots activism movement. It's the On the Move movement. It cannot function without you, however, it is bigger than one man. I want to thank each and every one of you for your patriotism and for taking the time to get involved today. All right, so if you haven't noticed, we're 26 minutes late as of right now on the show. Everything's going to be pushed back 26 minutes, and I apologize for the inconvenience. We've had some trouble with Blog Talk Radio. There's already a conspiracy theory brewing that the NSA is trying to shut us down. So anyway, today we got a really good show ready for you guys. The date is March 16th, 2014, and we have an action-packed show for you today. Everything's going to be thrown off time-wise, so I can't even tell you, who we're going to have on at what time. But we will have Representative Candidate Steven Nielson from the Washington Libertarian Party for District 2, Position 2 on the show today. Later in the show, we're also going to be joined by Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant. And you can check out his stuff at daylightdisinfectant.com. With that said, we're going to be talking about a bunch of different topics, such as the newest scandal that broke this week with the Central Intelligence Agency spying. They were accused of spying on Congress. So that's a big deal. We're going to be talking about that. I also want to talk about a new attempt from the political correctness crowd to be the word police. We have singer Beyonce. She's leading the charge to ban the use of the word bossy. So we'll be also talking about whatever else comes up. Feel free to call in with your own topics if you'd like to discuss anything. We'll be taking your calls as well as reading your emails. So if you'd like to join the conversation today, please give us a call at 619-924-0986. Again, that is 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. And just so you know, if you are listening to this show right now, because we have a lot of confusion with what's going on, if you're a live listener, and, obviously I'm talking to you, so I can't go out and promote the new link for the show, please try to make sure that you promote it yourself. Do it on your Facebook page and all the groups that you can. Let everybody know that we had to create a new link for this show so they can listen to it, because it sucks when you go to tune into something and it's not there. So let everybody know that you can, where to find it. I'd be doing it right now, but I'm talking to you. So with that said, don't forget to check us out at OnTheMoveShow.com, here at blogtalkradio.com/OnTheMoveShow, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. We have a store at OnTheMoveShow.com. You can get there by clicking the shop link on the homepage. We got hundreds of products for sale in there, ranging from T-shirts to freeze-dried food to books that I recommend reading to bumper stickers and so much more. Your purchases will help make On The Move bigger and better, and we really appreciate your support. That money that we get from that will go back into the program, and it will go to things like getting us better camera equipment, getting us better microphones, things like that. So anyway, I would really appreciate if you guys would check it out and see what we got, because we got a lot of good products on there, and they're made by us for you, so for patriots by patriots. Also, we have a quick poll at the bottom of the main page on our website. It's one I've been having for a little while, and I just kind of want to see what you guys have to say on it. Especially, I thought it relevant considering we have a Libertarian Party candidate who's going to be calling into the show as a guest today. The quick poll says, is it time for a new political party? So is it time for us to shed this two-party system that we have and actually start voting for a third party? The answers you can choose from are yes, no, unsure. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of this quick poll. And feel free to email me and let me know your comments, and I'll read them live on the air. All you got to do is email me at talk@onthemoveshow.com, and I'll read your questions or comments live on the air. So, all right, with that said, we're moving on. Today we're moving into our first topic of the day, the first segment that we do every show, and it's This Day in History.
This Day in History.
Because people have got to know whether or not the president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Yesterday,
country can do for you.
Mr. Gorbachev teared down this wall.
And the people who knock these buildings down.
A date which will live in infamy.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
All right. On March 16th, 1935, that's 79 years ago today, Adolf Hitler decided to break the military terms set by the Treaty of Versailles by ordering the rearming of Germany. According to historylearningsite.co.uk, the Treaty of Versailles was a peace settlement signed after World War I and had ended in 1918. And in the shadow of the Russian Revolution and other events in Russia, the treaty was signed at the vast Versailles Palace near Paris, hence the title, Between Germany and the Allies. Those are the ones who were signing it. So World War I had actually left Europe devastated. Those who fought in it, they suffered casualties which they'd never experienced before. For example, in Britain, they had 750,000 soldiers that were killed, 1.5 million wounded. France had 1.4 million soldiers killed and 2.5 million wounded. There were thousands lost in Belgium. Italy had hundreds of thousands. Russia had 1.7 million killed. American soldiers had 116,000 killed. So, I mean, there was a lot of loss. And it's not just on the Allied side. On the other side as well, those who fought against the Allies, they had heavy casualties as well. Germany had 2 million soldiers killed. Austria-Hungary, they lost 1.2 million soldiers. Turkey had 325,000 soldiers killed, and Bulgaria had 100,000 soldiers killed. You know, the total deaths of all nations who fought in the war is thought to have exceeded 8.5 million, with 21 million being wounded. This is genocide on an epic scale. So, alongside with these statistics was the fact that the vast areas in northeast Europe had been reduced to rubble. Flanders and Belgium had been all but destroyed, and with the ancient city of Ypres being devastated, the homes of 750,000 French people were destroyed, and the infrastructure of this region had been severely damaged. And basically there had been a lot of hostility towards the Germans after this. And during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, an estimated 25 million people died. And this only added to the feeling of bitterness that ran through Europe. And this anger was primarily directed at Germany. So the treaty was signed on June 28, 1919, after months of argument and negotiation as to what should be contained in this treaty. After agreeing to the armistice in November 1918, the Germans had been convinced that they would be consulted by the Allies on the contents of the treaty. This did not happen, and the Germans were in no position to continue the war as its entire army had been disintegrated. Though this lack of consultation angered them, there was nothing that they can do about it. Therefore, for the first time, German representatives saw the terms of the treaty. It was just weeks before they were due to sign it. And they were angry all throughout Germany when the terms were made public. Many in Germany did not want the treaty signed, but representatives there knew that they had no choice, as Germany was incapable of restarting the war again. In one last gesture of defiance, the captured German naval force held at Scapa Flow, which was north of Scotland, deliberately sank itself. Germany was given two choices: sign the treaty or be invaded by the Allies. They signed the treaty because they really had absolutely no choice. So on March 16, 1935, again, that's 79 years ago today, Adolf Hitler decided to break the military terms set by the Treaty of Versailles by ordering the rearming of Germany. He had public support because Germans felt that they had been coercively placed in this treaty to begin with. They were angry because they hadn't been consulted, and they were forced to sign this basically at the threat of being invaded. So, and obviously they had it coming. So, but of course, we now know that that this was only one of many events that led the world into the Second World War. And I just thought it was kind of fascinating of how that happened. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're moving on. If you'd like to join the conversation today, give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that is 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. So now it's time for my favorite part of the show. It's called The Weekly Defender.
And now it's time for the Weekly Defender. You have the right to defend your life, the right to defend your family, and the right to defend your freedom.
All right, this is a segment of the show where I like to report on armed citizens in the news who have used their firearms to defend their family, their property, and themselves. Our first Weekly Defender we found on KEZI.com. It's in Junction City, Oregon, where Lisa Atkins said that it took 23 minutes for the police to show up, and she had to hold an intruder at gunpoint until they showed up when he broke into her home on Wednesday morning. I can't believe that this woman held this guy for 23 minutes at gunpoint while the police were on their way. She lived out in the country, but now she's spreading a message about how firearm training helped her stop a burglary. So, this really fascinated me, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I have a clip here, and I'll go ahead and play it for you.
Washington City woman stopped a burglary at her home this morning and was able to keep the intruder on the ground until police responded. KEZI 9 News reporter Stacey Kafka is live in the studio with more on how she kept him at bay until help arrived. Stacey?
Brian, Lisa Atkins says it was a long 23 minutes after she stopped an intruder at gunpoint after he broke into her home this morning. Now she's spreading the message about how firearm training helped her stop a burglary. Normally, Lisa Atkins wouldn't be home on a Wednesday morning.
I'm homesick from work today, and I was resting in bed.
But around 9, her 3 labs started making a commotion.
And so my first thought was they were just fooling around, being the puppy Labradors that they are. But as it got louder, it was obvious that that wasn't the case.
So she got up to figure out what was going on.
As the noise came more in the house, I decided I needed to get my handgun from the nightstand and proceed cautiously through the house.
That's when she says she found this man, Joseph Baker, inside her home.
And so that's when I took the gun from its holster and commanded the person to stay still and get down on the floor and asked them what they were doing in my home.
While the no trespassing signs, security system, and dogs didn't stop Baker from breaking through 2 doors to get into the house, Atkins' extensive firearm training stopped the burglary.
We've been through the Oregon Firearms Academy courses, and so we're trained into how to deal with these kind of situations.
While she never thought she'd use this training at home,
I'm just thankful that the situation turned out like it did, in that everybody's safe and where they should be.
She's hopeful other women can learn from her experience.
23 minutes is a long time, and while most people live near a town and wouldn't have to wait that long for a response, it was an incredibly quick response considering how far out we live. Without that training and without that ability, the end result could have been very different, so I'm blessed to be here today.
Baker is currently lodged in the Lane County Jail facing charges of burglary, resisting arrest, menacing, and criminal mischief. Live in the studio, Stacey Kafka, KEZI 9 News.
I find it fascinating that, people, especially the anti-gunners, are saying, just call the police. And one saying that I've heard people talk about is, I would carry a police officer with me, but, they're too heavy, so that's why I carry a gun. As far as this whole situation, it really doesn't surprise me because the police have notoriously horrible response times. And who wants to wait 23 minutes for the police to show up? Even if you're in the city, it can take more than 20 minutes for the police to show up. So why would you advocate basically banning firearms and stopping people to be able to protect themselves? This woman, she could have been killed if she didn't have a firearm. 23 minutes, a lot could have happened in 23 minutes. So, and on top of which, just to point out, like I've done before, there's been a Supreme Court ruling that the police departments in America, they have absolutely no duty to protect you. So And that's because otherwise they'd be sued all the time when they fail to protect you. So they don't have to protect you. They can basically just drive around the block until the situation is resolved, and then they come and investigate what happened. I'm not saying that they do. I'm not saying that they don't do that though. But my biggest issue is that you can't rely on the police to protect you. You can't rely on the government to protect you. If you could, then things like 9/11 never would have happened, and especially after the government totally spooled up, and we've seen them basically create things like the National Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act, all these things. Then how did the Boston bombing happen? If the government could protect you, they would be protecting you, and they're not. And it's because they really don't have any interest in it. They just want to get more power. But I digress. I'm going a little further into the weeds here. Our next weekly defender we found on the Plain Dealer. Everton Mosby, he's age 24. He was approached by two men outside of his home around 2 a.m. They forced Mosby inside the home where they beat him. During the assault, Mosby was able to pull out his concealed firearm. He fired at his attackers, striking both of them. One suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. The second assailant was treated for a gunshot wound to the knee before being placed under arrest. It was reported that the surviving suspect had been previously convicted of charges including breaking and entering, theft, criminal damaging, and felonious assault. And again, that was reported from the Plain Dealer in Cleveland, Ohio on December 18th of 2013. So anyway, I personally love hearing about law-abiding citizens using their firearms to protect themselves. I believe that you have an absolute right to defend your life, to defend your family, and to defend your freedom. We at On the Move, we support your rights, and if you have a story about how you lawfully defended yourself, or you'd like to comment on one of these stories, we'd like to hear from you. Give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. All right, so at this point, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to go into a quick segment of the Mack Attack, and we're going to bring on our guest, Steven Nielson. So stick with us, everybody. I appreciate it.
Support On the Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
This is a segment of the show that I like to give you my take on outrageous events in the news. If you'd like to join the conversation, please give us a call at 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. All right, so I'm going to be quick about this. I have Steven Nielson on the line. He's going to be coming on here, but I want to quickly just mention this whole PC thing that's going on. Are you guys tired of the political correctness being pushed down your throat? All right, day after day, we see that they're trying to basically be the word police. They're trying to control your thoughts and what you can say. Well, the word police are at it again. It wasn't too long ago that they wanted to ban the words citizen and brown bag. They don't want us using those because they can offend somebody somehow and hurt people's feelings. And because of that, we need to stop allowing people to use them. Well, I'm also sure that you guys have heard about the NFL, how they're trying to ban the use of the N-word on the field. And there's no mention whatsoever of other offensive words being banned, just the N-word. That's kind of messed up, right? Not that I want them to ban more words, but why is there's some kind of special protection for just this one word? Well, like I said, they're at it again. Now they're trying to ban the word bossy. This campaign to ban bossy is joined by former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, singer Beyonce, actress Jennifer Gardner, actress Jane Lynch of the show Glee, former princess turned fashion designer, turned fashion designer Diane von Furstenberg, NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson, U.S. Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan, CEO of the Girl Scouts of America, Anne Marie Chavez, and founder of Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg. So I got the clip for this campaign to ban the word bossy. And you guys listen to this. What do you think?
This is Ban Bossy. Take one.
Pushy, stubborn, pushy, stubborn, bossy, bossy.
When I was growing up, I was called bossy.
I think the word bossy is just a swasher.
Being labeled something matters. By middle school,
girls are less interested in leadership than boys. And that's because they worry about being called bossy.
We need to tell them it's okay to be ambitious.
We need to help them lean in.
Words matter. Let's just ban the word bossy.
And encourage girls to lead.
To be strong and be ambitious.
Listen to your own voice. There are no limits. Dare to be you. You can change the world. Let's ban bossy. Be brave. Be you. Ban bossy.
Join us to ban bossy.
I'm not bossy. I'm the boss.
Encourage girls to lead. Take the pledge at banbossy.com.
Does that sound like propaganda to you? It does to me. Anyway, so I'm going to bring Mr. Steven Nielson here on the line here. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So what are your thoughts on that? I know I just kind of blindsided you with that one. I didn't mean to do that, but I'm trying to squeeze everything in today. So what are your thoughts on the ban bossy thing?
No, absolutely. I'm the father of 3 daughters, and I don't need a government initiative to tell me how to raise my daughters to be strong, independent women, leaders in the house, in the community. I instead lead by example. They come out to political events with me. They hand out business cards. They talk to people. And my oldest daughter is 6 years old, and she's asking folks about what is freedom, what is the government, what do you do? So I'm raising strong women, and I think it's funny that they believe that if they ban a word, then it's going to somehow inspire pride in these women. What we need to do is we need to take our daughters, and I'm perfect examples. I've got 3 of them, and show them how to be leaders in the community and how to be involved and what that means to them. If we take a little bit more personal responsibility in raising our daughters, we wouldn't need to have words like bossy banned. This is ridiculous.
Absolutely. Well said. One thing that I like to actually look at this situation, it reminds me very, very much of fascism, because one of the very first things that they've done is they've shut down. They're trying to shut down free speech, and that was the very first thing that fascists did. And I've said it so many times before in the past. I do not believe in censorship. I think censorship is never the answer. I've said it before. The answer to speech that you don't like is more speech, debate, not censorship. And I think this campaign only serves to reaffirm to girls that if someone calls them bossy, that it actually is negative. If they didn't care about it before, they sure are going to care about it now, because they have Beyonce telling them that it's a big deal. And this campaign's made it a big deal. My personal philosophy is basically, honestly, who cares? If somebody said something that hurt your feelings, boo freaking who, toughen up. It's a tough world out there, and you can't go around getting offended and just crumbling every time somebody says something that you don't like. And don't get me wrong, it's okay to get offended, but to try to stop pursuing your dreams or to not take some kind of leadership position because you're afraid of what people think, I mean, honestly, come on, get real, right?
Exactly. If I crumbled up and cried in the corner every time that somebody gave me a hard time, I'd still be, sucking my thumb behind a garbage can in 7th grade, watching the big kids run by. We whether you are, male, female, where you're at in life, what your disposition is. We just need to understand, standing up and speaking for yourself, advocating for yourself, for those around you, that's the way to do it. And when the government steps in and says, we're going to ban this, we're going to ban that, like you said, it's fascism, it's the wrong direction, and it definitely sends the wrong message to young ladies, girls, and women, it definitely bothers me as a father of 3 daughters.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can see how that would, and maybe they are bossy. Maybe somebody's actually being bossy, and if you are, that's fine. I can't think of a single leader that I've read about or I know that wasn't bossy. I think it's a good quality to have, especially as a leader. If you want something done and you need to get it done and you know how to do it and you're assertive in getting the job done, kudos to you. Where your bossiness is a badge of honor. And to all the young girls out there who are genuinely discouraged from achieving success because they're worried about being called bossy, please, this is a message to you, ladies. Please listen to what I have to say. I have empathy for you, but you honestly need to not care about what other people think of you. I would never get anything done if I worried about what others thought about me. I've had people who want to see me get shot for what I say and do. People on the internet are just plain freaking mean. But ladies, if you refuse to stop caring about what others think about you, I'm going to ask you one question. Would you rather be thought of as bossy or as a failure? All right, if you basically just give up your dreams or your ambitions out of fear, then you're never going to accomplish them. So I ask you, would you rather be bossy or a failure? Email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com or give us a call 619-924-0986. And with that said, I would like to reintroduce you, Steven, here. I'd like you to give you a chance to talk about yourself and explain, who you are, where you come from and everything, and why people should get out and vote for you when it's time. So.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. I actually do appreciate the off-the-wall question there. It did catch me off guard, but like I said, as a father of 3 daughters, it really comes down to how are we raising our children, our little boys and our little girls. I can't wait to field a couple of questions from some of the ladies out there and see what their opinion is on that. But getting back to who I am and where I'm coming from, I'm a candidate for state representative in Washington's 2nd Legislative District. That's South Pierce County, North Thurston County, and basically from Lacey and the Olympia area over to Ording, and then right up to the Yakima County line, so including all of Mount Rainier. Fairly rural and very socially conservative district with a few pockets of pretty dense urban areas. And one of the issues that I'm trying to raise here is the statism versus libertarianism, and I am running as a libertarian candidate. I'm running against a gentleman by the name of J.T. Wilcox, who's the Republican House Minority Floor Leader, and he ran unopposed 2 years ago, and the election before that he took down somebody within his own party. And there are a lot of questions over the last 4 years that I have for him in the way that he has decided to lead, and they haven't been answered. And as I've been developing this campaign, one of the comments that I've heard several times over is an election isn't the time to bring up these issues, and it just makes me want to fight back a little bit more, because the elections are exactly the time to raise issues when it comes to liberty, when it comes to what we're doing to protect Washington State from Washington D.C. What we're doing with regard to the preempting of some of the events. We have leaders in Olympia that are reactive at best, and by and large they are the go along to get along kind of folks. And we need champions for liberty that are going to preempt some of the things that are on the horizon, the issues that are happening, in Connecticut, with the gun grabs. In Louisiana, we saw it. I know that guns and Second Amendment is kind of one of your hot button issues. But we saw, executive orders, we saw FEMA orders, in Louisiana during Hurricane Katrina to forcibly disarm folks. It's the potential for happening in Connecticut. What are we doing in Washington State to prevent situations like that happening? And my biggest question is, why aren't the supposed champions for liberty asking these questions, and why aren't they voicing these concerns? We just adjourned in Olympia a few days ago, and the biggest celebration from the liberty movement is that bad law didn't get passed with regards to medical marijuana in this instance. So when our biggest victory is that bad law didn't get passed, why isn't it that good legislation isn't being passed, and that being our celebration? So I'm challenging on leadership in liberty, and we are lacking that right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you as far as going on the offensive as far as legislation, because at this point it seems like a lot of people are just really willing to fight the bad laws, like you said, that are being put out there. But I don't think that's good enough, and I think that certain legislation is required for us to actually make advancements in liberty. For example, I am an advocate of constitutional carry. I don't believe that you should have to ask permission to the government to carry a firearm concealed. I don't think that has absolutely anything to do with the government. It's your right. It's your absolute right. And obviously, it's not the criminals. I'm sorry, it's not the law-abiding citizens that are causing the problems with it. And criminals, by the definition themselves, they are criminals, and they'll break the law. So if they're going to break the law anyway and kill somebody with a firearm, what's to stop them from concealing? It's just a piece of paper. So
exactly, and I'm right there with you. I am 100% advocating constitutional carry. I've had folks say open carry is enough, but where we're at in Washington State is that we don't need any additional permission. The Second Amendment of the United States is pretty explicit, but then if you take a look at Article 1, Section 24 of the state constitution, it's very, very specific, and it says that the right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. So whatever words may be meant at the federal level, the state has, by Article 1, Section 24, invoked their 10th Amendment protections and said, we're going to go ahead and define it, how we're going to implement protection of right to bear arms here in the state. It doesn't get any clearer than that. That really you can carry. So long as, and then there are a couple of revised codes in Washington State that restrict, around schools and at sporting events and things like that. But by and large, the day-to-day, the day-to-day gun owner has every right within state law and state constitution and federal constitution to carry weapons. It's clear.
I agree. And also here, Stephen, we have a caller on the line. He wants to comment about the Bossy ban. You want to take a quick call?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. I got Tony on the line. Are you there, Tony?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. What do you got on your mind?
I think it's amazing that Beyonce and several of the women leaders that are prolific in government as well as actors, actresses, are complaining about a word that is not a negative as we use it in our daily life, leader. And to me, it's an absolute travesty, and it's just, to me, I really think it's a smoke and mirror for something else. I think it's just another attempt to see that this government wants to try and get away with something. Okay, let's see if we can ban the word bossy. See, because while this ban on bossy is going on, I'm from Southern California, and I'm not going to take a bunch of time here, but there's a store owner that sells the lower receiver for an AR-15, and he is selling it legally. It's been purchased legally, and it is up to the ATF standards. But because when the manufacturer of said receiver put little indentations where the customer could drill the part to make it an AR-15, the ATF went into the store and said, we want all your lower receivers. the store owner, whom I know I'm 6 miles away from the guy, the store owner agreed to cough up the remaining receivers. However, he would not cough up his customer list. So he got a restraining order over the ATF. This was last Thursday. Mm-hmm. Saturday, the ATF broke into his store and searched it. And the ATF, while they're doing it, says it's fun to go searching through a store, but the paperwork is a pain in the ass.
Wow, yeah. You know, honestly, that doesn't really surprise me, though, especially, you said that was in California, right?
Yeah, it's actually it's in Oceanside, which it kind of surprises me because Oceanside is where Camp Pendleton is.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, I've seen that the federal government is growing more and more emboldened at all this stuff. What are your thoughts on that, Stephen?
Well, I agree that I agree 100% with the stance the comment that was made about Fossey, and then we went over to the lower receiver. So to finish that up, absolutely, it's ridiculous, and what it's doing is it's setting a precedent that the federal government and leaders, if you call them leaders, so-called leaders, believe that they have a say in what we can say. So that's kind of that's how I feel on that. So I agree with Tony had said there. With regard to the receivers, we have an issue where it's not that it's in Camp Pendleton. It's not that it's state forces. The ATF are federal forces, I believe, in this case, and you see this with raids on on organic co-ops for food. You see it with gun stores. So and it's happening more and more where you're getting these federal agents encroaching on the freedom, on the liberty of individuals, and it's disgusting. And we don't. The one thing that we're failing to understand is that this is happening right now around us. It's not being reported. And here, we have Tony calling in from California saying the reason why I know about it is because the business is 6 houses down or 6 blocks away, and it's existing now. It's happening to me real time. Where's the media on this? Mm-hmm. And it's because they don't want you.
I'm sorry, Stephen. I didn't mean to cut you off. Here's the scary thing for me. The company is Era's Armor. The owner is, I'm going to give his first name, Dimitri. Here's the scary thing. He got a restraining order against the ATF, and they broke in anyways. They broke in. They did it when he wasn't there. Why couldn't they search the place when he was there? Why did they have to break into the place? See, it's just another thing of me. For me, I think that the federal government and its agencies think that they're all above the law. And given what has transpired in the past 5 years with the law, they have every reason to believe they are. Because you know what? Quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, nobody is held accountable. Now, what is the ATF going to say? We're sorry. We're sorry we did that? Yeah, but you broke the law. Every one of you should be fired.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And by the way, in case my listeners haven't recognized the voice yet, Tony is from Tank and Tony, sounding off with Tank and Tony. Hey, Tony, do you want to plug your website real quick and any information so my listeners can find you guys?
Oh, I appreciate that. I didn't do it for that. I listen to your show all the time, and I said, you know what, I'm going to call on this one. Our website is Sounding Off with Tank and Tony, and our radio show is also on Blog Talk. It's on Friday night at 6 o'clock Pacific. It's Sounding Off with Tank and Tony. Awesome. And not that I think you needed any help or anything, but I'm 6 miles away from this store, and I know the owner, and I've been in there, and I know the people. And I think it's cool. He was our featured hero on Friday night, but the owner said, I'm not giving up my client list. There's no way that they can force me to give up my client list. And a judge agreed with him because the judge gave him a restraining order against the ATF, and the ATF said, well, we don't care about that local judge. The Fed supersedes you. Now, I'll have more on this, and, I'll give you more information on it when I find out tomorrow morning because I'm going up there and talk to him. I've already made my phone call. But, see, they already broke the law.
Mm-hmm.
The ATF already broke the law. What are they going to do? Say, oh, we didn't mean to do that. We didn't mean to rip your front door off its hinges and come in here. We didn't mean to laugh while we were searching your place. Is that what's going to happen? Yeah, that's all I got. I'm sorry. I don't want to, I know you got a candidate on there, and I appreciate you taking the call, Mack.
Oh, no worries, Tony, and I appreciate you calling in. I like I said, I'm happy to promote your stuff as well. So, I want my listeners to go check you guys out because I'm a listener of your show. I'm a big fan. So it's a thrill every time you guys call into the show. It's awesome. So, and I totally agree with what you're saying as far as the ban on, or I'm sorry, not the ban, them trying to basically just steal this information and they're breaking laws. It's becoming a lawless society now, and in my opinion, it's the fault of the federal government. And we see that with them changing federal laws like Obamacare, where they're just unilaterally changing things without any kind of constitutional authority. They're breaking the Constitution, and that if they're going to break the Constitution, it doesn't surprise me that they're going to break a restraining order or other laws, because to them those are just pieces of paper. The Constitution is just a piece of paper to these people, and they don't care about it. And they see that they can get away with basically just usurping all this power and going around the law, and nothing happens to them. So it doesn't surprise me, and it's not going to surprise me if it continues to happen. What will surprise me is that no one stops it. There's no impeachment process. No one goes to jail. I don't feel like I'm alone when I say that I'm fed up with this kind of crap. And I know that other people out there are fed up. So when is it going to come to that point?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You brought up a point earlier in the show that where is the media? Why isn't the media getting involved? Why isn't somebody? I mean, look, LA's up the road from me. San Diego's down the road from me. I'm actually between LA and San Diego. That's like 20 million people, and nobody in the media says, "Hey, we need to go over and check this out and ask some questions," because it's against the law for him to do it. The ATF being the him. I mean, it's bad enough, there's people there. It's bad enough that I'm going, hey, this is BS. What's going on, people? And quite frankly, if I was one of those names on that 5,000, and I would not be that name on there because I would pay cash, and I'm sorry, you can't have my name and number. I'm not doing business that way. But if I was one of the people on that one of the 5,000 people on that list, I would be at that door going, let me tell you something, pal. If you give up my name, we have a problem. Nothing against the store owner, because he could wind up being subpoenaed into a federal court and having to cough up his client list because there's no expected right of privacy in that sector.
Yeah, well, it's rare for us to see people to take a stand like that, and I'm really happy that he is actually standing up for what's right. I appreciate you giving us a call in, Tony. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Steven Nielson. Thanks again for calling in, Tony.
All right, thanks, Mack.
All righty. All right, so we'll be right back after about 1:30. Don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. When we last left, we were talking with Tony from Tank and Tony Sounding Off with Tank and Tony. Sorry about that. And we also have Steven Nielson, the Libertarian candidate for Position 2. I believe it's District 2, Position 2. Is that right, Steven?
Absolutely is.
Okay. So, All right. Sorry, we kind of got off track here and got off topic, but I'd like to talk more about your thoughts on the issues at hand, and again, why we should vote for you. So let me start out with the first thing here. We talked briefly about the Second Amendment, and you went into as far as the state constitution and explained that, and you also said that you believe in constitutional carry. What are your thoughts on open carry?
Well, constitutional carry, open carry, are relatively the same. Right now, Washington State is handled with regard to, I believe it's like British common law, that if it doesn't explicitly, make it illegal, then you can do it. You're free to do it, and you are allowed to open carry in Washington State. There are certain municipalities where they within cities, things like that they have enforced some laws. And whether or not those are in spirit of the Washington State Constitution, I believe would be up for debate. But I've been known to open carry several times. So I'm absolutely in favor of open carry. I do follow the rules that they try to get you on, like transporting a loaded firearm and things like that. But I'm hugely in favor of open carry.
I agree. Okay, so as far as like the kind of stuff that I'm sure you've heard about, the displaying a weapon law that's in Washington, where if you're transporting or you're carrying a weapon that people could assume could cause a threat to them or their safety or something, how police are using that law to arrest people who are open carrying, and how other police around the nation are using laws like disorderly conduct to arrest peaceful open carriers who are just asserting their Second Amendment rights. What are your thoughts on how the police are using these laws?
Well, there are some some officers who are more let's say law-abiding than others, and unfortunately there are a lot of officers who don't understand the law. So they use, like you said, they use some tricks here because maybe their buddy has had to deal with it. But if you ask them to present the law, quote the law, it's scary how many of them can't, and they don't understand why. It's emotion driven, so they don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. And it's well, there's a call of somebody's a little bit concerned that that you have a gun out, that you're brandishing a firearm. Look, if you the way that the laws are written, by and large, if you're not touching, grabbing, squeezing, gesturing towards your weapon, and being a menace, you are fully protected within the law. And we're in an interesting day and age right now, and I highly recommend that if you are going to open carry, have the ability to record any confrontations with police officers, and if they know that they're being held, obviously you need to know what the law is, and then ask them and capture it on film.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. You have to protect yourself. So, all right, I have a caller here. We got a few minutes here. We'll take a quick call, and Steven, I'll let you answer a lot of this stuff here. We got Rick on the line. Are you there, Rick?
I'm here, Mack.
All right, what you got?
Oh, I mostly just called in to chat for a couple of minutes. Yeah, it's interesting because you got Steve Nielson on the line, and from what I understand, Steve is planning to speak at our rally here in a few weeks.
Absolutely, yes, April 5th.
Great.
That's the plan.
Tell everybody some more information on that so people know what you're talking about.
Well, on April 5th, we're going to be at the Capitol. We're going to be up there. It's kind of a three-pronged, three things that we want to accomplish there. First is we want to stand up for our rights, or for Connecticut, for their rights. We want to stand with them in their opposition, their refusal to comply with unconstitutional laws there. That's the first one. Second one is we're going to be launching our kickoff to fight the I-594 initiative. And then the third one is to give candidates like Steven an opportunity to speak out for gun rights as they run for their positions here in November. So.
Yeah,
okay,
and so I'd like to jump in on that. There are two things. So first of all, yes, I'm extremely excited to get an opportunity to address fellow gun rights activists, and you're going to hear these words from my campaign over and over again, because I believe them from the center of my soul here, that the people deserve unfettered access to modern arms, not hunting rifles only, but to modern arms and plentiful ammunition and any other tools that we deem necessary to protect our person and our property. And that is thankfully is very explicit in Washington State Constitution, but it goes beyond Washington State. The people have that natural right to defend themselves, period. And we need modern arms and access to ammunition. And right now, that's what's being challenged. We can have our muskets, so you go ahead, let the people eat cake, sort of a thing. But really, we need access to modern arms. We need access to the ammunition for those arms, not just for the protection of ourselves, but if it came down to it, the protection of the state from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And we need to be able to stand up and defend with our very livelihood, like World War II times. We'll fight them on the streets, we'll fight them on the seas, we'll fight them in the air. The people who are fighting, that's us, that's you and me. And then to change it to Connecticut, the main issue that I see with Connecticut is a very scary one, and it's a precedent that was set previously. And there's a celebration that's happening in Connecticut that the state state troopers and state police are refusing to enforce the law of confiscation. They are not going to be the ones to enforce it. It's going to be Homeland Security. It's going to be guards from other states. It's going to be people who don't know your neighbor, which is why the state troopers aren't going to be disarming their neighbors and their brothers and their cousins. They're going to bring in folks from outside of the state, and it's going to be potentially bloody. They did the exact same thing under orders of FEMA in Katrina. So you're going to see not the state troopers. So we may be celebrating that the state troopers are standing up and saying no, thank you. It's not going to be them who are going to be used as the force to disarm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Hey, Rick, where can people find out more information about your group and more information on this event that's taking place on the 5th of April so that they can attend?
The easiest is probably going to be to go to Facebook and just search for Gun Rights Coalition.
Okay. Do you guys have a website or a Facebook account or?
We do. GunRightsCoalition.org. And I'm not. I need to make sure that there's actually a link to the Facebook page on that. GunRightsCoalition.org is the website. Haven't done much with it in the last couple of weeks, but we do have the website, and it's you can get to you can check with Second Amendment Foundation, Oath Keepers, Lewis County Oath Keepers. There's 2 or 3 Tea Party groups up around the Seattle area. Free Voices United. Several groups now that we have involved. Any of those groups will be able to get you to the coalition and then to the event. What we're trying to do with this particular event is this is going to be kind of our first big event with all of these groups that we've united together, and therefore we're trying to kind of flex our muscles, so to speak, as a coalition, as opposed to all these individual groups that are all over the place. We're trying to take all those groups, put them together, and create one powerful force that we can go out there with. So
great, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's honestly that's one thing I'm super excited about is bringing people together, networking us all together. I appreciate you giving us a call in, Rick. And everybody, make sure you check out his stuff. And I'm part of Free Voices United and the Gun Rights Coalition. So everybody, I hope you guys go to the event because I'm going to be there on the 5th, and I hope to see you all there. So thanks for calling in, Rick. I appreciate it. And we're going to have some more with Steven Nielson when we come back from this break. I have some listeners that are calling in here, and I got some emails for you, Steve. So we'll be right back in about a minute 30. Don't go anywhere, everybody.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. I appreciate you guys sticking with us. If you'd like to join the conversation today, the number is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Or you can email us at talk@onthemoveshow.com. I have Steven Nielson. He's a Libertarian Party candidate, and he is here to basically talk about what he stands for, why you should vote for him. We've been talking about a whole slew of topics today. We've been talking about the Second Amendment, and we've got some more things that are on the agenda that I'd like to ask him. But first, Steve, are you there?
Yes, I am. Here I am.
Okay, I got a email here from Zach Banks, and he asks, given the recent debacles of Big Bertha, 520 Bridge, and the Columbia River crossing, I would like to ask Mr. Nielson how we can reduce transportation spending, particularly in the area of cost overruns.
Absolutely. That's a great question, so thank you, Zach, for asking it. Traffic in Washington State and the way that they've dealt with it, let's just go ahead and say it's incompetent to the point of neglect. The issue with Bertha is just on the top of the surface. If you think about what they're trying to do with Bertha, they're trying to fix some pretty catastrophic situations that were brought on by the 2001 Nisqually earthquake, where the viaduct was pretty much damaged beyond long-term the long-term life of. And it took them 10 years to really make a decision on what they were going to do. And in that 10 years, they wasted billions and billions of dollars. So what we need to do moving forward is we need to decentralize the way the decisions with regard to traffic. And I've got a lot of this information on my website, StevenNielson.com, or how we're going to or how we need to handle. How we need to handle traffic issues, but I believe the end goal is a pay-to-play system, and this is largely supported by libertarians, where whether it's privatization or local jurisdictional control over the roads in the area, we take the decisions away from the central committees where they're wasting money, where they don't have a vested interest in the communities that the traffic projects are impacting, and we allow the decision, the funding, and the work to be done locally. It'll increase the time, decrease the time, increase the product viability, and better serve our communities, because we understand what our local needs are, as opposed to these centralized groups.
All right. Well, we have a caller here. Do you want to take another caller, Steve?
Sure thing.
Okay, we got Steve on the line. He's with a cannabis association. Is that correct, Steve?
The Cannabis Action Coalition.
I see. Okay. So do you have a question for Mr. Nielson?
Sure. You're probably aware of the fight we've just had with the legislature over the last 3 months trying to get rid of medical in favor of I-502 and the Liquor Control Board. What's your position on that? It looks like we finally won. We finally wore them down, and we won right before midnight at the close of the session. But they were really trying to eliminate medical in favor of a business model that hasn't even shown that it can work yet.
Exactly, and the unfortunate thing is that we're celebrating a victory because bad law didn't happen. Well, what failed to also happen is any good legislation associated with this. So we have a group of folks who still exist in fear of the federal government. What's going to happen? What does it mean in Washington State to have medical marijuana, to have recreational marijuana? Where is the legal standing now? So without the protection of the laws and the regulation to at least say this is the way we're going to handle it, I believe that we're still exposed. So it's a half-hearted victory, and I think what we need is principled leaders, champions in Olympia that are going to stand up and say, we need to stop trying to push, bad legislation, and let's get some good legislation in. And so I'm hoping to work with the CAC throughout my campaign, and once I'm elected, to really put forward some positive and working legislation to solve that problem, to protect the citizens of Washington from the federal government, who is only out of the state because the Justice Department has decided not to enforce laws. It's still federally.
We have good legislation. We just couldn't run it this year because their total focus, and this was the Democratic Party, their total focus was to eliminate medical and use the federal boogeyman scare. Look, if the feds wanted to come in here and shut down medical marijuana, we've seen them use a very simple tactic, which means they just send DEA letters out to 20 different dispensaries telling them to close. It doesn't even cost them the price of postage, and they close down. So if there was, in fact, a federal threat, the feds should have done something to prove that that was really the case. But all they wanted to do was an excuse, a boogeyman, to say that this was the reason they needed to stop medical cannabis in the state of Washington. That had nothing to do with that. It was all about getting the tax money out of patients.
Exactly, and that's what it is. It comes down to money. They have a working model in Colorado, for better or worse. We still, because we have failed leadership here in Washington State, we're left fighting bad legislation instead of supporting good legislation. So it's my hope, Steve, that you and I get to work together throughout the remainder of the campaign, and as I spend my time in Olympia, to really support good legislation going forward. I'm excited to work with you guys on that.
Okay. Well, I'll be speaking at the convention, so we'll get a chance to meet. And we're also trying to protect our gun rights. I was shot in 2010 by home invaders, and I could have easily been killed. And if I'm not allowed to have a firearm, if I lose my Second Amendment rights simply because I'm a patient, do I have to die for that? Simply because I choose a different medication than maybe someone else does? We have to solve a lot of these problems, and we think we have some very, very good solutions for doing this. We want to unschedule marijuana in the state of Washington, and if we unschedule marijuana in the state of Washington, we can literally force the feds to take it out of Schedule 1, which also solves the banking issues. It solves a number of different issues. But we'll be happy to talk to you about that whenever you get a chance.
Hey, Steve, what convention? What convention are you guys talking about? Just so my listeners know and they can attend if they're interested.
Yeah, the Libertarian State Party convention is on May 31st, in SeaTac at the DoubleTree. You can go to lpwa.org and sign up there. There's Governor Gary Johnson will be in attendance, as well as several leaders from around the state and the nation speaking on liberty issues. So lpwa.org. And go ahead and sign up. Tickets are limited. I believe we've got 250 total, and we're about halfway through those. So there we go.
All right. Well, great. I appreciate you calling in, Steve. And at this point, I have another segment here that I would like to talk about here. Another topic for you, Steve, Mr. Steven Nielson. I know there's two Steves on the line there. But what are your thoughts on this whole CIA spying on Congress thing, the scandal that has recently happened, and how Dianne Feinstein has been outraged with it? I actually have a clip here real quick. I'll go ahead and play it for you real fast. And then I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. So 1 second.
Without prior notification or approval, CIA personnel had conducted a search. That was John Brennan's word, of the committee computers at the off-site facility. This search involved not only a search of documents provided by the committee, by the CIA, but also a search of the standalone and walled-off committee network drives containing the committee's own internal work product and communications. Based on what Director Brennan has informed us, I have grave concerns that the CIA's search may well have violated the separation of powers principles embodied in the United States Constitution. Our staff involved in this matter have the appropriate clearances, handled this sensitive material according to established procedures and practice to protect classified information, and were provided access to the Panetta review by the CIA itself. As a result, there is no legitimate reason to allege to the Justice Department that Senate staff may have committed a crime. I view the Acting Consul General's referral as a potential effort to intimidate this staff, and I am not taking it lightly.
Okay, so that was Dianne Feinstein talking about the CIA spying on Congress as they're trying to basically provide oversight for the CIA. So, Mr. Nielsen, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man, that medicine tastes pretty bitter, doesn't it, Miss Feinstein?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, exactly. What more can I say on that? They come out and they say, you've got nothing to worry about if you got nothing to hide. There's no issue that they have with spying on Americans, be it wiretapping, drone surveillance, checkpoints, DAS or DHS, Homeland Security, federal police officers monitoring our streets, our businesses, FCC regulation by this new watchdog group that's going to be in. But then you start doing the same sort of policy toward Congress, and suddenly we have a problem. I think it's funny they're getting a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious, especially considering Dianne Feinstein has been avidly defending the NSA spying on American citizens. Let me ask you, Stephen, what is your thoughts on Edward Snowden? Do you think he's a hero? You think he's a traitor? What are your thoughts?
Along the same lines, I fielded this question several times before. We have to be whistleblowers against anything that we see that's wrong. We're taught to, if we see something, say something, but that's meant to target our neighbors. Very 1984-esque. If you see your neighbors doing something wrong, if you see your neighbors, rebelling, if you will, against the orders of the federal government, then you're supposed to say something. But when we identify that the federal government is doing something wrong, we're supposed to remain silent. So whether or not I believe that he is a hero or a zero, I think that he did the right thing, and it's unfortunate that the United States government is so vehemently attacking a citizen for doing the right thing, upholding his oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. This has been a long time coming, and he actually changed the entire playing field around the world by outing what the U.S. government was actually doing, and it's very dangerous what they're doing. So I would have to say that he's a hero.
So would you support him getting clemency?
Absolutely. I believe that the federal government needs to cease and desist any actions against Mr. Snowden.
Okay, and you know what? I definitely agree with that as well. I actually have a clip here of Dianne Feinstein talking about the NSA spying and how she's defending it, and I'd like to make some comments on it afterwards. So I'm going to play the clip real quick. We'll be right back.
So Edward Snowden, whatever you think of him, he leaks these documents, he leaks the information about these programs. And Senator Feinstein, there's a big hue and cry and a big debate, but basically the president says that these programs are here to stay. And critics of the speech, as I've been reading them, seem to say very little will change. Barton Gellman writes about it in the Washington Post, and here's what he says. Obama placed restrictions on access to domestic phone records collected by the National Security Agency, but the changes he announced will allow it to continue or expand the collection of personal data from billions of people around the world, Americans and foreign citizens alike. It doesn't seem like a lot of privacy protection.
Well, I would disagree with Mr. Gellman. I think that what the president has said is that he wanted to maintain the capability of the program. That as Chairman Rogers said, it has not been abused or misused, and it is carried out by very strictly vetted and professional people. Now, what he said is, by March 28th, I'm asking the Attorney General to come back to me with some suggestions and probabilities of how the data might be stored by other than the government. And I think that's a very difficult thing, because the whole purpose of this program is to provide instantaneous information to be able to disrupt any plot that may be taking place. And, I think a lot of the privacy people perhaps don't understand that we still occupy the role of the great Satan. New bombs are being devised, new terrorists are emerging, new groups, actually a new level of viciousness. And I think we need to be prepared. I think we need to do it in a way that respects people's privacy rights. Let me make one other point. When you look at what companies collect, the government does not seem to be a major offender at all.
So this is hilarious. I find this whole Dianne Feinstein thing, where she's upset about CIA spying but not about NSA spying, the moment it's put back on her, she has an issue with it, and I wanted to obviously talk more about that. I have like I said, I still have Steven Nielson here on the line, and we have one more listener who's calling in here. I'd like to field this call, and he wants to talk about the Second Amendment and gun rights. So I have Jesse here on the line, and when we get done talking to Jesse, we're going to talk more about this. So you're on, Jesse.
Hey, how are y'all doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. I'm listening to your guest, Stephen, and his plans for speaking up on the Second Amendment. And when you were talking about ensuring Americans have the means to defend themselves, one of the things I always like to point out is that when we listen to the anti-gun groups, one of the things they try to perpetuate is that our founding fathers somehow only thought that muskets were going to exist, or that muskets were the only weapons available at the time. And that's really a lie. I don't know if any of y'all, did either one of you see the Mothers for America commercial that came out about a mass shooting maybe about a month ago or so?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, they have this commercial where, a guy runs into a business with a musket, and he shoots, and everybody starts running scared, and he just kind of stops there frustrated and starts reloading, and, the words come up, mass shootings won't happen with muskets, so forth and so on. And they really do try to perpetuate this concept that the only weapon that existed when our founding fathers wrote the Constitution was that sort of weapon. And what's so wrong about it, it's wrong on two accounts. First of all, our founding fathers were thinking men of science, many of them. They knew that things were going to advance. They knew that weapons were going to change. I mean, you listen to how George Washington thought about it. He wanted to make sure we always were dominating in everything. So we already knew, our founding fathers already knew that things were going to progress past muskets. But more to the point, more importantly, is that within our founding fathers' lifetimes, even before their lifetimes, there were already weapons that are a lot more advanced than a smoothbore single-shot musket. I don't know if any of you or your listeners have heard of the Lewis and Clark rifle, but it was a silenced, basically it was a silenced high-capacity firearm. It was air-powered, but it was still capable of dropping a deer or a human, and had somewhere, I want to say it had like 7 shots. The Germans in somewhere around 1670 had a repeating rifle that basically had like 2 different chambers, one with gunpowder, one with a bullet, and when you worked the lever, it put both of those into the chamber, and you could fire them. So they already had repeating arms at the time when they wrote the Constitution. So it's not like we have anything now that is beyond the realm of feasibility. So it's really up to us as gun owners, as people who want to defend this nation, defend our homes, to know these sort of things so we can counter that lie that the gun grabber group puts out there. So, I'm hoping that you, Steve, already kind of knew that, and if not, I'm kind of hoping that this will perk your interest in those areas enough so that you'll look it up. So, that's one more thing you can bring when it comes time to make the argument on why we should have.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the information, and it gets down to it in the Constitution of Washington State, which was in the late 1800s. So you had time for advanced technology from the time of the founding Constitution, and it very explicitly says that the right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of the state. They didn't mean just muskets. So the individual is responsible for being able to hold, like I said, modern arms. So however the advancement is, and that was very clear when the state was founded, that they were addressing the advancement of technology in that regard. So thank you, Jesse. I really do appreciate that, and I think that other folks need to understand at the federal level, but also at the state level, and look at the wording, 100 and some odd years after the Constitution, that it was very clear that they were intending modern arms.
I agree. And thanks for calling in, Jesse. I appreciate you giving us a call. So one thing that I would like to point out on that is actually the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. We've seen it time and time again, and it doesn't necessarily even just take a gun to kill somebody. One of the biggest things that we've been seeing in the news, I think I reported on the last show, is there's been mass stabbings in China. That was the last one that I reported. I think 25 people were killed and hundreds of people were wounded, something like that. So if people want to kill people, they'll find a way. It doesn't take a gun to kill people. And that's the thing, too, is that one person with a gun can defend themselves from many people with guns or knives or whatever, because it's deterrent. A lot of people don't, especially these criminals who are out there trying to do this kind of stuff, they're looking for soft targets. And the best way to stop them is to arm our population. Granted, you'll have acts of violence because people have a firearm. Maybe somebody got hot-headed or something and shoot. But I can almost guarantee that probably would have escalated to violence anyway, because if somebody's going to kill somebody, it doesn't matter if they have a gun or if they have a knife. They're going to use whatever they have at their disposal. So I think the biggest threat to our society is disarming people and making it so that they can't protect and defend themselves. And I'm pretty sure, based on what we've talked about tonight, Stephen, that you would agree with me on that.
Absolutely. The United States has a horrible track record of disarming citizens. We don't think that it's happened before, but if you actually look, the United States went through and disarmed you can call them standing armies, if you will, because there was a lot of conflict. But during the 1800s, late 1800s and into the early 1900s, where there was a lot of resistance from Indian nations, there was mass disarmament, and there was historical tragedies here in the United States where women, children, men were gunned down because of those issues, and there was obviously a lot of racial tension associated with it. But we are not without sin in that regard, and it's very troubling that we have that historically in the United States, and we need to make sure that does not happen again. And the only way to do that is protect gun rights, protect gun owners. And it's in defense of ourselves, our property, against criminals, like you said, but also against the state.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. So I have some questions I'd like to ask people that are on my show. I have a few questions that I typically ask people, and one thing I'm curious, sir, is what does it mean to you to be a patriot? Because that word's been thrown around a lot, and a lot of people think it's getting tainted and it's being turned into something negative. What does it mean to you to be a patriot?
I agree with you. To be a patriot means that you are going to stand up in defense of your neighbor and stand up in defense of yourself with regard to what's right versus what's wrong. It was very clear in the in the early documents, pre-United States in the Declaration of Independence, that we are compelled when our natural rights have been violated to do something. But there's the human element, the disposition is to not rock the boat. So long as it's it's tolerable, like they said, we'll just go ahead and go along. So the modern day patriot is somebody who recognizes that it isn't tolerable, and we're actually in a much worse state with our king, the federal government, the many kings, and than we were during the revolution. So recognizing that and standing up, being proactive. So I'd like to think of myself as a patriot, because I'm not coming in and being reactive and saying, well, let's fix this issue. Let's just focus on this issue. I'm putting my name on the line. I'm putting my reputation on the line and proposing liberty initiatives that say I'm willing to stand up, and I'm willing to flush out all the folks who are talk only. And if you don't get behind these initiatives, then you may call yourself a patriot, but are you really a patriot? Are you willing to not look at the next election, but let's look at the next day? How are we surviving? How are we thriving? And how are we fighting and challenging all of the ills against the natural rights that we maintain? And first and foremost amongst those is my Executive Order Review Act, which is very simple in saying that our Commander-in-Chief, who has a phone and has a pen and has proclaimed that he's not afraid to make law at his leisure, that the state legislature needs to review every executive order and approve it by 3/5, before it can be enforced within the boundaries of Washington State. Somebody who stands up and says, "I'm the champion for that cause. I will protect you from a violation of your natural rights." Obama does some good things. Bush did some good things, and that's great. We have the right to review and refuse. And the folks who are championing and innovating and standing up and putting their name, their livelihood on the line, those are your modern day patriots. The folks who are paying lip service, and then when it comes time, they're going along to get along. That absolutely is what's painting us.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. One question that I also have for you, because I think everybody who is now a libertarian probably didn't start out that way, at least from what I've noticed. I've become kind of gradually, gravitating towards the Libertarian Party. I consider myself a conservative libertarian, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that the Libertarian Party stands for. My question to you is, first of all, have you ever been affiliated with another political party? And if so, what kind of drove you, and how did you get to the Libertarian Party?
Yes, I wasn't born and wrapped in the Constitution as a child, and living in the Libertarian Party. It was this amazing revelation that has kind of evolved over the last 15 years. I started, in a Republican household, very conservative household, and a very politically aware household. And so I started fairly early questioning, phone callers, phone bankers who were coming in and really being involved in that regard. And as I grew, I was extremely active within the Republican Party. I was a secretary of the county party, Douglas County in Colorado, and served there for 2.5 years before moving back to Washington State, and have been very, very active up to about 2010. 2012 was when the real split came, where it became very clear that the Republican Party had no interest in entertaining the ideas of liberty, to the extent that I was actually, as secretary of the party, fielding motions from the floor of our general meetings to ban people who supported liberty. In that election in 2008, it was Ron Paul. But folks who were questioning the status quo of the Republican Party and starting to say we want to talk about these libertarian ideals, and as that progressed from 2008, 2009 into the 2012 race, it was very clear that libertarianism had no place in the GOP, and I fought within the system for quite some time, and I really do applaud those who are still trying to fix the party from within. But it was a very organic transition out of the party when it was very clear that it's not going to be in my generation that the Republican Party actually embraces or champions liberty.
Well, honestly, I'm starting to feel more and more like that nowadays. It seems like the establishment GOP people that are there, that those are the guys who are really, they're trying to fight liberty. It seems like in the most absurd ways. They spend more time attacking the Tea Party than they are actually going after these Democrats on these issues. And let's see, I have I believe this is Tony in the chat room. He wants me to ask you, Obama has done some good things. Really, name two. So he wants me to ask you, what are two things that Obama's done?
That's a really difficult question off the spot. He has said that he wasn't going to enforce drug laws, so he has effectively put on hold to some extent the war on drugs, and that has allowed states like Colorado and Washington to try to set up the legal the legal regulation of the medical aspect of it and the recreational portion of it. So to some extent, in that regard, the inaction in this case is a good thing. Sometimes when the federal government fails to act, it can be a really, really good thing. They don't have to overregulate. So I'll stop at one example, but I think that's a really good one in that by backing off on that just a little bit, it gives states like Washington and Colorado, who are leading the charge for marijuana freedom, if you will, to really set a precedent for the rest of the states.
Well, honestly, I think that's where we're going to deviate there because, like, for me, I think that Obama is not to be trusted. So just because he's inactive on this one right now, that doesn't mean that he won't be later. And honestly, I've been talking to people in the marijuana industry it's a growing opportunity here in Washington. I've been talking to people about it, and a lot of these growers are really concerned because everything is basically them documenting every step along the way that you're violating a federal law. So just because they're not doing anything right now, they could be giving these growers, all the rope they need to hang themselves, because once the federal government does decide to act, then they have all this information on you proving that you grew this at this time, you used this fertilizer, you transported it in that truck, and you signed along everything. You gave up your Fourth and your Fifth Amendment right every step along the way. And we see that our president will lie straight to our face when he says, if you like your health care plan, you can keep it. That was lie. So, and And on top of which, he has no problem violating the Constitution and unilaterally changing laws. So just because he sent out a memorandum to the federal government that we're not going to enforce that, I don't trust him enough to throw him. So I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. That's what I'm going to say. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this man goes back on his word, and I just don't think he has any credibility. So just because he hasn't acted now, what does that really mean that he won't act? What do you think, Steve?
No, and I don't disagree with you in that regard, but that was one instance where we are afforded the opportunity to try to fix it. And then it'll, like I said, once we establish the legal standing, then we can challenge the overreach on grounds of Commerce Clause. If we grow it in state, if we regulate it in state, so long as in this case, marijuana doesn't cross state lines, the federal government doesn't have any legal standing with regards to the Commerce Clause. So his ineptitude in this case, and you and I agree that he's not a man to be trusted, but his ineptitude and his failure to act has given us an opportunity to take advantage of his weakness. So you and I don't disagree with regard to his not being able to be trusted, and it's a very fine brush that I'm painting him with doing good things, because I disagree with him on about 99.99% of everything that he does. But that's one instance where I think that once we establish that legal standing here in Washington State, then we are protecting ourselves from further federal encroachment.
Well, I will say one good thing about Obama. He sure knows how to vacation. That guy, he can vacation like nobody else. So
that was going to be my answer, but I wanted to keep it serious.
Well, yeah. So all right, we gotta wrap up this segment here. It was great to have you on, Steven. For my listeners and everything, give them your website, how they can get more information, and especially how can people get involved with your campaign? How can they help you out? How can they learn more about you? What can they do?
Great, yeah. www.stevennielson.com is my web address, and then from there we're linked to Facebook, Twitter, where we do a lot of our daily activism. We're getting ready to start our ground game. We're going to be canvassing our entire district. We're going to be getting out, knocking on, hopefully 80,000 doors, because that's the number of voters. I'm looking for ambassadors. I'm looking for folks who want to stand up and try to help help get out what we're doing. Who are willing to get out there on sunny days and on rainy days, and knock on people's door and talk about liberty. I'm really pushing these liberty initiatives, trying to be proactive, trying to preempt issues that are happening in other states. So I ask folks to go check me out, StevenNielson.com. Hopefully you can put up a link to my site. I actively communicate with folks over email and on my Facebook posts because I don't pretend to have all the answers. I definitely am listening to folks, though, and people have got a lot to say. So I'm hoping to take that to Olympia. The communication. That we're having now, and really start to implement some true liberty movement in Olympia.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate what you guys are out there doing. If anybody wants to get involved with him, I'm going to put his information on my Facebook page, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can check it out, and I'll have a link there for it after the show. And again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Steven, and you are welcome on the show anytime. And if you have any other libertarian candidates that that you'd like to come on the show, they're welcome on as well. I'm more than happy to give you guys your time to speak, and I'll talk to you about the issues. If we disagree, I'll challenge you guys on it. But from what I'm seeing, Steven, you got my endorsement. I like what I heard. So far, I haven't heard anything that I fervently disagree with. So I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for coming on the show.
Great, thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, so at this point, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. And don't think of this so much as a commercial break, more as I have to use the restroom. So I'll be right back. Thanks. Thanks for sticking with us.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. When we left the show, we had Representative Candidate Steven Nielson on the show from the Libertarian Party. And we will be having Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant on the show in a moment here. As of right now, though, we have a caller who would like to give her take on what it means to be a patriot. It's what I asked Steven Nielson. So we have Tank from Sounding Off with Tank and Tony. You're on.
Hey, Mac. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Great. Amazing show tonight. I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, I'm glad to hear. So what are your thoughts on what it means to be a patriot?
Yeah, I wanted to tell your Representative Nielson what I thought, and I sincerely hope he's still listening, because I think that I speak for many people when I give my personal definition of what it means to be a patriot. I think that being a patriot means standing up for not only what you believe personally, but the fundamental values that the Constitution was written for. And a lot of times that's going to make you very unpopular. And, in Mr. Nielson's case, that might even lose him an election this time. But I think it's important that he still step up and that we as individuals step up, even in light of being incredibly unpopular for our beliefs. And we continue to move forward for that cause,
Oh, no, I totally agree. One thing that I kind of go by, it's a philosophy of mine, is that just because it's the right thing to do, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy. And most of the time, it's easier to do the wrong thing. And all we have to do is look back in our own history at civil rights movements. Like Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was out there fighting for liberty and equal rights. And I mean, honestly, he went to jail so many times fighting these kind of injustices. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't popular at the time. There were so many Democrats out there that absolutely hated him, and we saw that when he got assassinated. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that doing the right thing is difficult, but I absolutely agree that we have to be willing to stand up and be able to fight injustices when we see it. And I really appreciate you calling in, Tank. I'm about to have Dan Sandini on the line here. So do you have any final thoughts you want to say before I let you go?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think being a patriot is adhering to your beliefs and, the constitutional backing of those beliefs. And, doing it even when you're criticized or when it causes you to lose an election or whatever else, you have to hold true to those beliefs. And I think that is really what's going to change the future of our country, is being solid in those beliefs in the face of loss or defeat. That's just my thoughts on it.
Well, awesome, and I appreciate you calling in. Like I said, Tony, it is an absolute thrill to talk to you guys. And it's funny because I'm a big fan of your guys' show. So check them out. Sounding Off with Tank and Tony. Again, I'll plug the crap out of your guys' show because I like the show a lot.
Mac, we're behind you 100%. We love the show. We love tuning in, and it's always a pleasure to call in and be able to talk.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and it was great to talk to you. So. All right, at this point, we have Dan Sandini on the line from the Daylight Disinfectant. Dan, are you there?
Hi, it's me, Mac. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing real well. I really appreciate what Tony had to say there. I don't know her show, and you could probably tell me that afterwards, but being a patriot absolutely is doing the difficult thing. And what it means is exercising those constitutional freedoms that we have. Exercise your First Amendment, open your mouth up and say something when you see something's wrong and report on it, Be active in blogging and video blogging, get your camera out. And I think the Fourth Amendment, too, is, a lot of people look at me and say, why do you do what you do and why do you behave the way you, the most important right that we have is the right to be left alone. And when people come and try and harass you, okay, and tell you that you can't exercise your First Amendment right or your Second Amendment right, the most important of all those rights that the Founding Fathers, came up with when they came up with the Bill of Rights was the Fourth Amendment, which was the right to be left alone. And it leads right into what I wanted to talk to you about today. A lot of your listeners don't know who I am, but so my name is Dan Sandini, and I run a blog called DaylightDisinfectant.com, and the associated YouTube channel is even more important, youtube.com/ all one word, Daylight Disinfectant, and you'll find the video that I'm going to be talking to you about tonight. So yeah, it was out and about in Portland yesterday, and yeah, I was harassed by the left as usual. They don't like reporters who take a different perspective than they do, and yeah, I was harassed yesterday, and people can go out and see that video. So yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Mack.
Oh, absolutely. You're welcome on anytime. And Dan is doing really awesome out there in citizen journalism. So one thing I'd like to talk about, I saw the video. I thought it was incredible. So let me just paint the picture here, lay out what happened for everybody. And you correct me if I misunderstood the situation, but these guys are anti-fascist. Is that correct?
That's correct. They stemmed from, it's kind of a weird, confusing mishmash of the left. But the folks who you're really talking about here when you dig through it, Mac, are the anarchists who hang out over in the Red and Black Cafe over in southeast Portland. And they try and make a presentable image of themselves by coming out against Nazism and fascism. And so, yeah, what you were seeing was a protest which they organized to go against Nazism. And some of the people who they've blogged about, some of the Nazis, then believe me, they were Portland Nazis, I have videoed and put up on my YouTube channel and exposed. One of them, her name is Rebecca. And so anyway, I had gone down hopefully to catch some of these Nazis. It was originally supposed to be a Nazi protest. And so the anarchists came out to do a counter-protest, and the Nazis never showed. So you're right, it's an anti-fascism protest put on by the anarchists is what you're looking at.
Okay, so I found that fact a little disturbing compared to their reaction to you because, again, and I said it earlier in the show, the answer to speech that you don't like is not censorship. And it seemed like they were trying to actually implement fascist tactics by shutting you down, trying to block you and intimidate you and harass you. They were, in fact, being fascist themselves. So they were actually doing exactly what they were there to protest against. I don't understand what that was about, but it just shows the ignorance of these people. I don't get it.
It completely shows their ignorance. They make assumptions about people based upon their appearances, and they are just as bad. I don't know if I go quite that far, but they are almost as bad as the Nazis. And God help us all if the anarchists get in charge. Because these people are single-minded thinking. They will not allow news that goes outside of their purview, okay, to get out, or they don't want it to, okay? And they will hide their identities, or believe they will. I will expose them, okay? But they will hide their identities by wearing masks. And so in the video, and I'll bring you along a little bit further in it, but it was yesterday morning. They got me up early on a Saturday, Mac, but I had to go down there at 10 o'clock on a Saturday, and I went down and I had my video camera, and I set up my video camera, and I taped them. And when the Nazis didn't show up, The first thing that happened was they didn't have anybody left to hate on, so they put up a band up there that puts up a video and that puts up a song, okay, and the band plays a song called Astro Turds that they dedicate to the Tea Party, and they say, this one goes out to all the Tea Party members. Well, that caught my attention, so I was videoing on that, and then out of it, you folks will see inside of the video, out of the corner of my eye, I catch one of them that comes over and starts saying, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing here? We're not comfortable with you videoing us." That's basically what happened to begin with.
Yeah, and they're in a public space. You're totally within your rights to record them in a public space in that setting. So, like for me, it kind of cracked me up how they're implementing these kind of like Gestapo tactics of intimidating and surrounding you. But for me, if I'm out doing an event or something, it's some kind of protest, and even if a reporter on the opposite side is trying to report on me, some left-leaning reporter, MSNBC or something's out there trying to report on me, I will absolutely love an opportunity to talk to their audience, because maybe I can wake up some of these brainwashed, mindless drones on that side, and that's great. I want more exposure, so why wouldn't they want the same kind of exposure? If their message is really true and they're right, then why wouldn't they want even people that disagree with them to see their message?
They don't. They want only their message to go out. They have their media channels. They want them to go out. And if they don't understand what you are, or they disagree with what your general perspective is, and here's the deal, okay? What these people believe, what the left believes in Portland, and why no matter what they say, the anarchists are in this town are dead set in bed with the left here in this town, is the end justifies the means. It's Alinsky tactics. And so if it means sticking a sign in your face, giving you a shove, backing you up to a busy street, all of the things that happened yesterday from these people, okay, they will do it, okay, in order to only have their perspective of what's going down to come out. And I think really, if I realize what's going on, someone began doing the mental math that there are other cameras around, and that when they began dissing on America, Grandpa and Grandma, baseball and apple pie, the Tea Party, that there were video cameras that were rolling, okay? And and they took one look at me, it's like, I wonder who that guy is, And of course, I stand for the principles of the Tea Party, and people will say, oh my God, it's a Tea Party whack job. Hey, look, the Tea Party means exactly what Rick Santelli said. It's not a real party, okay? But it is a set of principles which say smaller government, lower taxes, and personal responsibility for your actions, okay? Those three things are what the Tea Party stands for, okay? And so these guys probably looked at me and said, I wasn't wearing a sign that's the Tea Party or anything like that. I didn't have any kind of a sign or anything that disrespected them. I didn't even have anything that said anything on me. I was just in plain clothes, okay? But they didn't know who I was. And so they began doing the math, and it was like, oh, gee, I don't know what's going to come out of that particular. And you hear the guy say, every time I watch the video, and it'd be interesting if your listeners, go out to youtube.com/Daylight Disinfectant. You'll see that video there. Listen to what the guy says. And what he says to me is, I noticed, this is creepy, I noticed you had more than one camera. Are you from the media outlet? I'm like, okay, so having more than one camera makes me from a media outlet. I had my cell phone and my Sony Handycam. Okay, that makes me an enemy, and it's just ridiculous. So in any case, they to get on a little bit further with the story on what happened, but they backed me up to the NATO Parkway, and if your listeners know what the NATO Parkway is, okay, so they had a bunch of them that continued to push signs in my face and back me up, and of course, you could stand your ground, but it's going to end up in a physical altercation, and that's the last thing that I really want. Maybe they know that about me too, but there's plenty of guys that comment on my channel and said, hey, I would have backed up 1 foot. I would have leveled every one of those people while just standing there. I really don't want to spend my day in an interaction with the police, so I'll back away from a conflict and just say, hey, look, leave me alone. And you can hear me say it a million times, leave me alone. But I also know what is like raid or kryptonite to the left. And do you know what that is, Mack? What's like raid or kryptonite to the left? Well,
I know because I watched the video, but feel free, tell the listeners, please.
any kind of policeman or a police cruiser. So I always kind of keep in the back of my head where the cops are. And so I just began to back slowly up to the cops. And then when the light changed at the Needle Parkway, I could back up to the cruiser. And you'll see what happens to them. There's nothing that keeps them away from me except when I get near that police cruiser. And they don't want to. None of them. It's so funny to watch because it's like a force field, you know what I mean, to the anarchists. Yeah. There's other folks who don't care, you know, but the anarchists, they do not want to be near those. And it's because most of them have to wear bandanas, okay, because they're wanted on a warrant or something like that. And they don't want to come. They don't want to go near the cop. They don't want to get any kind of altercation with the cops. So it turns out, you know, they back up and they go back over the protest. And I went back over for a little while afterwards, but it was breaking up at the time, and I went home and wanted to get the video up. But yeah, that was stage one of yesterday, it's kicking off spring here. It's like Christmas time in Portland come May 1st because every leftist whack job in the world comes out of the woodwork. And yeah, so yesterday was a great day for media intimidation, and folks can see that video at youtube.com/Daylight Disinfectant. And I did want to come on your show and talk about it. More stuff happened last night. I was assaulted twice last night at anti-police rallies, and those videos will be coming out. We'll be naming people. Those videos will be coming out. We're still working on those right now. But, yeah, so it was an interesting day in downtown Portland, Mack, and I did want to come on and talk to you about it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and letting my listeners know about what's going on. And commies and anarchists, beware. Dan Sandini is on the prowl. He will record you, and you will get busted. So, look, I love what you're doing, Dan. Keep it up. One of these days, I'm going to be able to come out with you and do some of these. I'll be your cameraman or something. I'll just come out and join you on one of these things, especially come May Day. I'm planning on being down there. So, and I know you were talking about BlogCon, so I'm planning on being there as well. So, Dan Sandini, one of the greatest guys I've met. He's so nice. Check out his website at daylightdisinfectant.com. At this point, Dan, we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial. We're going to start wrapping the show up. We got about 8 minutes left. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks again, man.
Thanks for having me, Mack. Anytime. We'll see you in downtown Portland in the belly of the beast. Thank you to your listeners for watching the videos. DaylightDisinfectant.com. Thanks a lot.
All righty. Take it easy, Dan. Thanks again for coming on.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Need design services? Logo design for $90, business cards, brochures, bumper stickers, signs, flyers, promotional products such as mugs, pins, bags, keychains, magnets, and so much more. Contact LaTasha Worley for a quote on your next project at Tasha, Tosha, at lworleyphotography.com today, or visit me on the web at lworleyphotography.com, and on Facebook at facebook.com/lworleyphotography, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Tasha Worley. Show your support for a designer who believes in the Constitution and your rights.
And we're back. I appreciate you all sticking with us. We have about 7 minutes left in the show, and I'm going to be plowing through a bunch of information here that I wanted to get to. And the topic that I want to talk about is this. We're coming back to the Dianne Feinstein CIA spying thing. So does anyone else see the irony here? All right, she has absolutely no problem with the national security spying on every single human electronic communication. They're storing every email, text message, phone call, instant message, Facebook post, tweet, and whatever else you can think of in this giant data mining database. All right, she's actually defending the actions of the NSA at the same time, as she's saying the CIA is messed up. So she said that in the interview that she said defending the NSA, she's saying that the NSA is carefully vetted to make sure that they're not going to do anything illegal. All right, well, the CIA has that same vetting process, obviously. So are they above any kind of corruption? No. I mean, right now you're telling us that they spied on you. So if the CIA can go corrupt, what's to stop the NSA? So first, let's break down Feinstein's arguments, okay? She says that America is still the great Satan. She argues that we're a target for terrorism, that we need to trust our government to protect us from these terrorists, and to allow them to continue violating our rights to defend us from these evil people in the world that want to hurt us. So how's that working out for us? Did they protect us from the terrorists in Boston? No. They were even warned about these brothers from the Russian government, but they didn't do anything to protect us. Why should we continue to put our trust in these people when they blatantly violate the Constitution? And she also went on to say that we need to spy in a way that respects people's privacy. Really? How do you respect people's privacy when you spy on them? How is there even a way to do that, to respect privacy while spying? They have no probable cause or reasonable suspicion. They just steal your personal and private information without just cause. They create secret laws and secret courts, and they want us to trust them. They want us to believe that they have our best interest at heart. They say that if we knew what they were doing, it would damage their efforts to keep us safe. Does anyone believe this crap anymore? I'm fed up with it. I refuse to be told that we can't know what our government is doing. Any government that governs without the consent of its people is illegitimate. How can we consent to what our government is doing if we aren't allowed to know what they're doing? Her last point was that private companies collect information, more information than the government does. This is a bold-faced lie. There's no way that a single private company, no matter the size, can compete with what the NSA is doing with this data mining. Even if you look at every single private company in the United States, it wouldn't compare to the NSA. The NSA data mines everything. They store our information in these huge data mining centers in Utah. They have the ability to store the entire planet's electronic communication for the next few decades. Is Feinstein really comparing that to what private companies do? It's absurd. And let us not forget that we can choose to not patronize businesses that mine our data. We are not allowed that same right to decline participation in the data mining that our government does. We have no choice, and that is the definition of coercion. All right, so at this point, we're going to cut into we're going to have to slam everything together here, but we got the listener challenge coming up, and here we go.
I challenge you to a duel. Did you hear that? Sounds like it's time for a challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge.
All right, this is the part of the show where I challenge you all to get out, get active, get on the move. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to join our Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com/groups/OnTheMoveShow. Join the group. This is just one simple step that we can take in networking ourselves together. We can start to build our network of like-minded patriots. Invite your friends and your family to join the group as well. When we come together and organize ourselves, we become a force to be reckoned with. We must be a grassroots patriot wave. The only way we can do this is to come together and stand with one another. So stand up, speak out, and get on the move. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and wrap up everything. I really appreciate all of you, my listeners, for tuning in today. And if you want to participate in the show next time, or you want to let me know how we did, send me an email at talk@onthemoveshow.com. Or next show, you can give us a call at 619-924-0986. And again, I appreciate you all. That's our show for today. Again, thank you, my listeners, for tuning in week after week. We really appreciate your continued support. I also want to thank our guests for coming on the show today and all the calls that we got and emails. You guys are awesome. This is a great show. I had a really fun time. And thank you to Representative Candidate Steven Nielson from the Washington Libertarian Party for District 2, Position 2. Don't forget to check out his website at Actually, let's just go to StevenNielson.com. There you go. And that's StevenNielson.com. Thank you to Dan Sandini of the Daylight Disinfectant. You can find Dan online at DaylightDisinfectant.com. Don't forget to check us out at OnTheMoveShow.com, here at blogtalkradio.com/OnTheMoveShow, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.